All right, we're just gonna go with it right on into it. The whole landscape thing is still not working on this iPhone 14. I don't know why it's not working. Says the portrait mode is locked, and it's not locked, but it still won't let me do landscape for YouTube Live. It's the only thing that it won't allow me to do landscape on. So we're just gonna go with it. I don't want to delay and mess anything else up as far as this podcast. This is still the #1 podcast in the world. We're gonna get there. Scout Team Sports. I'm your host, DeValian, and we are in it again for this Saturday live streaming. I want to start off by saying, believe until you stop breathing. I know if you're watching this and you're starting off, whatever it is that you're starting to do, if it's anything like this, you literally have to believe until you stop breathing. Like, you have to continue to go. There are going to be many years where people are just not going to watch. They're not going to listen. But if you do it consistently enough, you keep going, you keep pushing, people eventually start to, catch on to, okay, yeah, maybe I'll tune in this week because he's consistent. I can always catch him. I can know him or her. I can know when to find out about their podcast, about their show. Anything that you love to do, be consistent in it and keep doing it. Do it to the best of your ability. Life gets in the way. I get it. It happens to me. But you keep pushing, you keep being consistent, and eventually you find out that you actually have a fan base out there. I actually had one with Colorcast, which was the other platform that I was doing it on when I first started out with Anchor. And then I got to Colorcast, and Colorcast was great because it was live shows, and you had other sportscasters in that hub and on that platform, and they, you would get other not only fans listening to you, but you get other sports podcasters listening to you. Then I listened to some of them, and it was awesome. They changed that platform to a sports betting platform, which for life me, I understand why. All those sportscasters were in that for sportscasting and getting their name out there, and then you just change it to a sports betting platform, which for life of me, I couldn't understand. Even if that is a new way, like, create a separate platform and do the sports betting. Don't kill Colorcast, for all those young up and coming sportscasters like that. That didn't make any sense to me. But anyway, that's why I decided to, because I was doing so well on the Colorcast live stream, which is why I wanted to bring this to YouTube, because I was doing well. So hopefully I could transfer my fan base from there over to here. And it's not it's easier said than done, but I'm still doing it. We're still going to get to that point. But anyway, we're moving on into, this is conference championship weekend in college football, and then we'll get to the pros. Excuse me. So we have, I mentioned in my midweek scramble, I did pick Oregon over Washington, but I did say I hope that I was wrong. And last night, on the Friday night, Washington edged Oregon 34-31, winning the final Pac-12 championship as we know it, because all the teams are leaving and it's going to be dismantled. So this is it. I'm glad Washington won. I think Oregon and Bo Nix were overhyped and have been for some time. And so I'm glad that Washington won. I don't see how you don't elevate Michael Penix Jr. to more into the Heisman Trophy winning talk, if you will, because it was just Jalen Daniels, LSU, and Bo Nix. They were like, Jalen Daniels, Bo Nix, Jalen Daniels, Bo Nix. Like, Bo Nix has now lost twice to Michael Penix Jr. And you look at the stats. Yeah, Michael Penix Jr.'s stats, 300 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. But Bo Nix's weren't that great either. He didn't scratch 300 yards, almost made it to 300 yards, and then 1 touchdown, no picks. So I don't see that as any better. I really don't. So unless you just give it to Jalen Daniels, that's fine. But don't. That's why I was hoping that Washington would win, because even if they try to elevate Bo Nix over Michael Penix Jr., at least Bo Nix and Oregon are not going to the college football playoff this year. So Washington moves on. Liberty with undefeated 13-0, winning the Conference USA championship, beating New Mexico State 49 to 35. So that was very good. Very impressed with them. 24th ranked at this point. They'll probably be higher moving on. But yeah, anytime that you can go 13-0, go undefeated for your season in any conference, I say that is a great accomplishment. So Liberty undefeated and winning Conference USA 13-0. Underway is Texas and Oklahoma State for the Big 12 championship. I didn't mention that in the midweek scramble, but I am picking Texas to win this. A lot of projections in terms of bowl projections are predicting them now to get that fourth spot in the college football playoff. And I don't understand why, even if they win and Florida State wins, why they are thinking that so many bowl projectors are thinking that whatever team is fifth is going to leapfrog over Florida State and get that fourth spot in the college football playoff. Is it really because Florida State lost their starting quarterback to that horrible injury? Is that really it? Because I get that happened, and what they don't want is what they are scared of is if Florida State makes it into the fourth seed and then they get blown out by Georgia, who would presumably be the number one seed, as long as they beat Alabama, which is not a guarantee, but I am picking Georgia. So I guess they don't want Georgia to just destroy, or the number one seed to destroy Florida State in the semifinal of the college football playoff because they don't have their starting quarterback. That's the only thing that I can think of. Other than that, Florida State has earned the right to make it into the college football playoff, even with their backup, if they continue to win, and they don't have an easy matchup. They've got 14th ranked Louisville, who is a 10-2 record. And 14th ranked Louisville is not a slouch. They're not a slouch. And yeah, they're not as good as Florida State, but they're not a slouch. I'm still going to pick Florida State to win the ACC championship game. And if they win, they should get in. If they win, they should get in over Texas. I get that, they're facing a ranked team. Texas is facing a ranked team in Oklahoma State, 18th ranked. But I don't think that you winning the Big 12 at the 7th ranked should catapult you all the way to the 4th seed over an undefeated Florida State team who is already ranked 4, and some way, somehow, by staying undefeated and winning their conference championship, they move back one space. That doesn't make sense to me at all. If you are trying to punish that, it's a horrible injury. I know you want to see quarterbacks, the top quarterbacks, the starting quarterbacks, and you don't want to see any blowouts. But you got a blowout in the national championship last year, and you had 2 starting quarterbacks. So even with the starting quarterbacks, it happens. TCU beat Michigan. They went on to face Georgia and got stomped the mud hole in. It can still happen, regardless of who's facing who, especially in college football. So Florida State wins. They earn the right to be in for this final four, if you will. Then you're going to have 16 teams, which is still atrocious to me, starting next year, with probably most of the teams coming out of the new Big Ten and the new SEC, because so many top-tier schools around the nation are moving to those conferences. And even with that, though, you're going to have, maybe 3 to 4 undefeated teams. You're probably going to have 7 one-loss teams. And then you're gonna run out the bottom with 5 to 6 two-loss teams, which to me is no, you shouldn't even be in there. You shouldn't be in there. It ruins the mystique of what college football is and tries to kind of merge it with the pros. It's different. College has to have some differences than the pros. You can't just make everything the same and say, oh, everybody should still face everybody. There's 7 teams in the NFL playoffs, and I wouldn't be surprised if they try to make it 8. For more money and more TV contracts and more football games. But so at some point it's going to be overkill. And no matter how much people are getting money hand over fist, eventually I think it's going to tune people out. I honestly would not watch out. Yeah, they expand to the 16 playoff. I'm not going to watch the first round. I don't care if there is an upset. I really don't. I don't care if there's an upset. There, I mean, yeah, anybody could beat anybody any given Sunday. You say, I say that's more so in the pros and in college football, but even still, if you don't deserve to make it, you don't deserve to make it. I don't care if one day out of the year you could, as a mid-tier team, beat the best team in the nation. That doesn't make a difference to me. You didn't earn the right to be there, so why should you be there? Stop putting all this other stuff into it, all this other nonsense and all these other factors. Everybody can be a stickler for an opposing opinion. There's always an opposing opinion for everything. Doesn't mean those people are right. Doesn't mean that those opposing opinions are valid. So stop. Anyway, let's get back to it. So yeah, I got Florida State winning over Louisville, and that should catapult them into and solidify them as the number 4 seed, winning the ACC Conference Championship and solidifying them as the 4th seed in the college football playoff, the Final Four. Again, Texas is up 14-7 right now on Oklahoma State. I see them winning that. Boise State, UNLV. I'll pick UNLV for the Mountain West. Georgia, I believe it's going to be a tight game, but I do think that they edge Alabama. Edge. And I do mean edge. In an upset, I'm going to take for the AAC Conference Championship. I'm going to take the 10-2 SMU Mustangs over the 22nd ranked 11-1 Tulane Green Wave. From what I've seen from the stats and what I've seen as far as the players and the team, I like SMU in that one. So I'm going to go SMU over Tulane for the AAC Conference Championship game. And then, of course, you've got second-ranked Michigan against 16th-ranked Iowa for the Big Ten title in the final regular-sized Big Ten Conference Championship. So, yeah, got Michigan over that. So my Final Four is going to be Georgia, Michigan, Washington, and Florida State. That's what I'm hoping for. Bowl projections. We'll go over that a little bit. Actually, you know what? I'm going to save that for next week. I'm going to save that for next week. That way we have something to talk about with college football next week, because next week is the actual break in between the regular season conference championships, and then when bowl season starts that weekend of December 19th. So that weekend is when the bowls start, and I want to have something for college football in that regard. But again, I will talk a little bit more about the Heisman Watch as far as who's in the lead. They're saying it's mainly between Bo Nix and Jaden Daniels. I'm saying you got to put Michael Penix Jr. up in there a little more. Jalen Milroe, I don't think is it. Just because if he would have been the quarterback the entire season without Nick Saban flip-flopping in and out, then I would say okay. And then based on his body of work, okay, he's up there in the running. But with the flip-flop, and first he was in, then they pulled him out, and then the other guy didn't do too well, and then they put him back in, and then I was like, I don't think Nick really knows what he wants. He's just going with the flow because of the one loss that they got to Texas. So, yeah, it's not his fault. It's not his fault. It's not Milroe's fault. But I don't really see it. The one thing I do not like, and that is when a non-quarterback comes up and he is hindered by his own quarterback or his own team. And well, if it's a defensive player, that's not the case. But if it's another offensive player, that is the case in this regard. I'm talking about Marvin Harrison Jr. I watched that Big Ten conference. Not Big Ten. I watched the big game. I watched Ohio State versus Michigan, and Marvin Harrison Jr. made some amazing catches in that game. He is an absolute playmaker and a star at the next level, already ready to go. Shades of his father. But they did not target him enough early on in that game. It's like he went to him like, you've always heard that the security blanket for a quarterback is usually the tight end. when it comes to college football, and especially in the pros. They used him like a security blanket in that game. They didn't target him enough when they should have early on in the game, early downs, first and second down. They didn't target him enough. They waited till third down. They waited till they were in trouble, and then they want to target Marvin Harrison Jr. And then he has to make a spectacular catch because the ball isn't really thrown most of the time where it should be. Sometimes it was, and it was thrown only where either he could make a catch or it would be incomplete, and he made a spectacular catch. Amazing catch. Amazing playmaker for him to do that. One-handed catches, especially a one-handed catch when it was pass interference, and the Michigan defender was holding his other arm, pulling him down to the ground, and he still made a one-handed catch with the one arm that he had free. So he should be up higher as far as in the Heisman talk, because it's not fair that if his quarterback doesn't target him enough or his quarterback has a bad game, then his numbers won't shine. He won't shine himself because his numbers won't be high enough. He did not get targeted enough early in the game, even to get targeted enough late in the game. But, as they were trailing, the more they would trail, and they were so heavy on the running game in that game. I was like, you need to target Marvin Harrison more. And then they wait, like I said, till they get in trouble. And then the Michigan defense already knows who you're going to throw to. Like you didn't mix it up enough. You didn't target him enough on first and second down. You ran too much on first and second down, and it was like run first, run second, pass on third. Like, you can't be that predictable as an offense. And his quarterback just didn't have a good game overall at all. So I'm like, that's not fair to Marvin Harrison, but he's going to suffer in the Heisman talk because of that. And of course, they're not going to be in the college football playoff because of that. And I don't even if Florida State were to lose and Texas were to win, I don't think Texas should go. I don't think Ohio State should get in because to me, they haven't earned it. They haven't earned it. They're a one-loss team. That was the whole point of college football ever since I've understood college football, is you can't lose late. You lose early, it makes somewhat like sense in the sense that, okay, maybe it's early in the season. Your team is still gelling. You're not sure who you are and finding your identity and stuff like that. But midway through the season and late through the season, you ought to know who you are. You ought to be solid enough not to lose because you've been playing together since off season practicing, and now you're playing real games. And now, okay, you had one hiccup early on, but late down the stretch, you don't lose. That's the whole thing about college football. You can do that in the pros and still make it into the playoffs. You can do that in the pros and still win your division, but you can't do that in college football. That's the difference. There's supposed to be a difference. And yeah, I just don't think Ohio State should get in because of that. But then it's like, okay, Texas is going to leapfrog 3 spots into the college football playoff if Florida loses. No, I don't see that either. So, I don't know. It's a mix. It's a hiccup. It really is. Like I said, 8 would be just fine. 8 teams would be fine. That'd be perfect. But 16? All right, moving on to the NFL. Not going to be as long because we got a full bye week, if you will. I call this a full bye week because there's 6 teams off this week. 6 teams on a bye this week, so we don't have nearly as many games. Dallas Cowboys, as I predicted, would win, but it was, to me, was not an impressive win. Now, people are going to talk about the fact that, all the negative talk about Dak Prescott, look what he did. Well, yeah, look what he did, but look what he had to do because the defense gave up 35 points to Geno Smith. The Cowboys, I love Geno Smith. I love the whole story, the comeback after being a starter with the Jets and being a backup for so many teams, coming around and then all of a sudden getting a shot with Pete Carroll, and he beats out who they took from Trevor Siemian for the starting job after the trade, and he gets now a new contract, although short-term contract, but fat money because that's what the contracts now are in the NFL. So happy for Geno, but Geno shouldn't have been able to get 35 points against this supposed unruly, one of the best in the league defenses. That shouldn't happen. and the Cowboys win 41-35. What? You really think you really think it's going to be a shootout against the Niners, against the Eagles? No, it's not. Just so what is this? Oh, we're Cowboys are riding high. No, look. Put it in perspective. You got the win. You did what you need to do, but you shouldn't have had to win a shootout against Seattle. That's not something you should be doing. And I guarantee you, you go up against let's throw in the other team that most people still aren't talking about because they're just not used to it. Forget the Niners right now in the playoffs. Forget the Eagles right now in the playoffs. What if the Cowboys face the Lions in the playoffs? And the defense plays like that. You think they're gonna beat? You think you're gonna win a shootout against Jared Goff? I wouldn't guarantee it. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yeah, Dallas can score on that Detroit defense. That's not a question. But I guarantee you, if you're giving up 35 to Seattle, you're going to give up 40 plus to Jared Goff and that Detroit offense. You are. And you cannot guarantee you're going to win a shootout just like you can't, like I say all the time. If you're win a shootout every week, you're not going to win. And even though their defense is bad, and yet they might not win a shootout every week, I'm not betting against the Lions in a shootout against a team whose defense is supposed to be good and they're giving up 35 plus. The Lions will take you out in a shootout. They will beat you in a shootout. You better hope that you don't face the Lions in the playoffs. Because if you face the Lions in the playoffs and your defense doesn't come to play, Jared Goff is taking that W. I'm telling you right now. The defense better clamp down. Mark my words, Cowboys fans. That defense better get its act together. You face the Lions in the playoffs and your defense doesn't come to play like it did against Seattle, Jared Goff is taking that W. So, moving on. We're getting into the rest of the games Sunday, December 3rd. And we've got Chargers. We're starting off with Chargers at Patriots. Bottom feeder game. Most people thought that the Chargers were going to win that game against the Ravens. I was like, nah. No, there's just a little bit too much that the Chargers defense came to play in that game. I'll give them that. But still, the Chargers defense, like I've always been saying, is hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. Forget what the stats are saying. You see how they play. One week, they're one of the best defenses in the league. Next week, they're they can't get it together on offense. So, yeah, it's all the coach's fault. Justin Herbert doesn't make any mistakes. He's perfect. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, they'll beat the Patriots because Patriots are horrible. Worst team in the league. That's really saying something, seeing as how the Cardinals are so bad. But yeah, the Patriots are the worst team in the league. So Chargers over Patriots. Next, you've got Lions at Saints. I say the Lions win this one. And this should lock up the NFC North for them. I don't see, now that Minnesota has lost again, previously last week, I don't see to the Bears, which I was like, what? On Monday Night Football? How? Even with Josh Dobbs and being new there, I was like, how did y'all let the Bears beat you again? 12-10? Really? But yeah, I don't see them even catching the Lions. So the Lions should lock up probably gonna take up 10 wins. Get to 10 wins first, and then they'll lock up. So they might not mathematically lock up the NFC North with this win, but they should win this game. They're better than the Saints. And, the Lions should lock up the NFC North pretty soon. And especially if Minnesota, with Minnesota being off this week, yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I think it's still going to be, we'll see. Yeah, mathematically, I think they'll need to get to 10 wins first. And then if the Vikings don't beat the Raiders, because they're both on bye this week, if the Vikings don't beat the Raiders, then that's probably it. So yeah, Lions over Saints this week. Next, you got Falcons at the Jets. Falcons are at 5-6. We're fighting for the division crown. They're tied with the Saints at 5-6 and atop the NFC South. And hey, go and do it, Falcons. Go do it. Go do it. Get that W. As bad as flip-flop and hot and cold as the Falcons are, I would say they're better than the Jets because the Jets have a really good defense but a horrible offense. And just like I said, it's not defense. Look, if defense, just think about this. What you've been told since grade school and Little League football, I get it. I get it. Because it's so thrilling when a defense makes a defensive stop at the end of the game and wins a championship. It's so thrilling because you're used to, the offense making the game-winning touchdown and ending the game, But when a defense, and that happens more often than the other way around. When the defense makes a stop, goal line stand at the end of the game, and they say, defense won the championship. No, they didn't. They just happened to be up last and had to make the stop to seal the game. Whether it's the offense sealing the game with a game-winning touchdown, game-winning field goal, which happens most of the time, or it's the defense sealing the game with a stop on fourth down. You have to be able to do either one. You have to be able to do either one. That's what balance is. Balance wins championships, not defense. You have to have both. Both sides of football need to be able to play if it's their turn to be the last play in the game and win the game. They both have to be able to do that. You can have the greatest offense in the world, but if your defense gives up a field goal at the end of the game, you're not moving on. So if your offense is playing like crap and you got a great defense like the Jets have, you're 4-7 and hoping that Aaron Rodgers comes back early, which I honestly don't think he should, because if he does, what are you going to really salvage? There's too many teams ahead of them in the AFC for the playoff spots that are not the division titles. So the top 4 teams win the division titles. And then you've got seeds 5, 6, and 7. There's too many teams competing for those who have a better record than 4-7 right now. And I don't trust Aaron Rodgers. Something else could happen and then you won't be back next season or the season after that. Why would you risk that for this season? I don't see it. I don't see it as a smart idea, but he's going to do what he's going to do. So I'm not going to worry about it too much because Aaron Rodgers is going to be Aaron Rodgers. That's part of the whole package that you get with him. So picking the Falcons over the Jets. Next, you got Cardinals at Steelers. This should be a cakewalk for the Steelers, albeit they're not that good offensively, but they're facing a really bad team who is in rebuilding stages and doesn't know what they really want to do in the Cardinals. So Steelers over Cardinals, not much to talk about there. Colts at Titans. Colts 6-5 over this Titans team. Didn't expect these two teams to be that bad. But they're at the bottom, and it's really between the Texans and the Jaguars in this division, which is refreshing to me. I'm good with it. But I just didn't expect it. But nonetheless, I'll pick the Colts and garner Ginsu Minshew as he is leading them while Anthony Richards is shut down for the season with his injury many, many weeks back. But the Titans just can't do anything with Will Levis, and they don't have a number 1 wide receiver. I get DeAndre Hopkins, but to me, he's past his prime. He's on his way out. And if your number 1 wide receiver is that old of a veteran, that's not recipes for success. And then, the mystique of Derrick Henry is, it's just not what it used to be, whatever you want to say. But I'll pick the Colts and their defense and the subpar offense of the Colts to beat the Titans, who are very, very much underachieving. Next, you got Dolphins at Commanders. Dolphins should win this game. I'm picking the Dolphins to win this game. I don't see the Commanders as far as their defense. They gave away or traded away their two best defensive players many weeks back in Montez Sweat and Chase Young. And they don't really have a defense. Sam Howell, to me, can only do so much on the offensive side of the ball. If that Dolphins defense even plays average to good, that's enough to cause problems for the Commanders. Really feel for Eric Bieniemy because he's earned better than this, But yeah, Sam Howell is not Pat Mahomes. So, in terms of what he's working with, I think he has shown that even with an average or subpar quarterback, he can do pretty good. Like I said, when Eric Bieniemy finally does, and I'm saying when, I'm not saying if, when Eric Bieniemy finally does get a head coaching job, I just hope it's not with the Broncos, the Chiefs, the Chargers, because it's looking like the Chargers are going to need another head coach. I'm hoping he doesn't go to the Chargers and not the Patriots. As long as he doesn't go to those 4 teams, I'm good. I'm good. You can go anywhere else. If we don't keep Antonio Pierce, then I want Eric Bieniemy, but I'd rather have Antonio Pierce because to me, he fits what the Raiders are. And if he can get his own people in there and get us a decent quarterback, I'm good with it. Yeah, so Dolphins over the Commanders there. Next, Broncos at Texans, both 6-5. This is a tricky one for me because it's all of a sudden now the Broncos defense seems like they want to play football. And the Broncos offense is getting it together and, they're making strides. They're, 6-5 now after being 1-4. And to get to 6-5 now, they are tough. But the Texans, I like the Texans and I like CJ Stroud. So it's like my heart says Texans because I like CJ Stroud, but then my head says the Broncos. But let's get down to the breakdown here. Texans offense is ranked 9th. To Broncos defense is 27th, so that favors the Texans in that matchup. Broncos play tough. They are 25th ranked offense, but the reality is they play better on offense than 25th right now. 25th is saying their body of work, and most of the time what the ranking is somewhat accurate to how the team is playing throughout the season. But like I said, since this turnaround after the 1-4 start, the Broncos they're fighting to win games. And so you can't just say, 25th offense and then the Texans 19th ranked defense and then, that's just Texans D all day. No. This is going to be a tough matchup because all the Texans have on offense is the passing game. They don't really have a rushing game. And then the Broncos are 14th in rushing, 26th in passing. So rushing is mostly their forte, but Russell Wilson is willing this team to win with just enough offense to win. I'm going to go with the Texans here. I think they edge them out, but it's not going to be easy by any stretch of the imagination, but I will pick the Texans here. I just think CJ Stroud's got it this week. And the Broncos are going to be, although they are better than their 1-4 start, I think it's going to be up, down for them. And it's going to be tough for them to make it into the playoffs with all these other teams competing, but they are in the running. So I will give them that. But I'm going to pick the Texans to win a nail biter over the Broncos. Next, we've got Panthers at Buccaneers. Not much to say here. 1-10 Panthers. Even though they're 1-10, to me, Patriots are still the worst team in the league, but they're down there too with the Panthers, and down there too with the Patriots and the Cardinals. Buccaneers 4-7, as bad as the Buccaneers have been, after that 3-0 start and only winning 1 game since then, they're still better than the Panthers. There's not much else to say about that. So Buccaneers over Panthers at home. This one is tricky. Browns at Rams. The Browns had a bumbly-fumbly. The Browns had a bumbly-fumbly last week against the Broncos. All those miscues and fumbles and the snaps and stuff like that. I mean, they've had their backup quarterbacks in before, so that's not. I don't understand why this week all of a sudden it was a problem, and so that makes the Broncos defense look spectacular, but it wasn't the Broncos defense that caused those turnovers. They caused their own turnovers by miscues and missnaps and bad handoffs and all this stuff, and that was on the Browns offense. The Browns are the most turnovers. The Browns offense has the most turnovers in the league. The Browns offense. most turnovers in the league, and they're 7-4. Imagine if they were only half of that. Imagine if they were just middle of the pack in terms of most turnovers in the league. They'd probably be better than 7-4 with the backup quarterback. I'm like, man. And now they're coming into a game against the Rams, who are seeming like they're on the rise, and they've got things a little bit straight now with Matt Stafford working that offense as best he can, whether Cooper Kupp is in there or not. Aaron Donald's still playing. He's not shut down, so that defense is always a threat. I think that Rams D-line is going to terrorize P.J. Walker and whoever else they might try to put in there because their other backup quarterback is injured too. I'm not sure if he's going to play. And then it's like, okay, now you don't even have an emergency quarterback now. So maybe the Browns are going to have to put somebody else in there or just use Kareem Hunt and run Wildcat or something like that for half the game because they're running out of quarterbacks. With that whole fiasco, I like the Rams. Like the Browns defense. They're still one of the best in the league. But like I said, defenses don't win championships. They don't even win most games because you have to have some type of balance on offense, or else they shouldn't have lost last week because their defense would take care of everything, even if the offense makes a whole bunch of mistakes. Clearly not the case. So I'm going to pick the Rams in this one. I'm going to pick the Rams to beat the Browns, unfortunately, because I'm liking how the Browns are doing. But you can't be having that many miscues. You have one of those against Aaron Donald and company. Yeah, somebody's going to get hurt. On top of that, it's going to be a defensive touchdown. It's they've got to get that quarterback situation down pat. They've got to get that quarterback situation down pat. They're going to be running the football most of the time. So you need something better than that. And we get to the marquee matchup here next. I'm picking the Browns over the Rams over the Browns. But then the next one, the marquee matchup, 49ers at Eagles, rematch of last year's NFC championship. But now you've got a healthy Brock Purdy. Niners are 8-3. Eagles are 10-1. The way the Eagles have been playing, it's like they'll be down, but then they make these miraculous comebacks. But it's not against the top tier. It's like middle of the pack to kind of sort of good teams like the Bills. The Bills have really dropped off. I'm surprised how bad the Bills are this year. And those are the teams that they're barely coming back from. If you get down like that against the Niners, I don't think you're winning. I love Jalen Hurts as a quarterback. I'm still hoping it's Jalen Hurts versus Lamar Jackson in the Super Bowl. But I don't think they win this one. I don't think the Eagles win this one. I think they drop to 10-2 because if the Niners get ahead, the only way that the Eagles win is they get ahead and they stay ahead. That's the only way to me. If they drop behind by 2 scores, the Niners are not letting them back in the game. I don't believe it. I don't see it. Because the Niners know that that's their best chance. That's their best method of winning. And as long as Brock Purdy stays healthy in the game, as opposed to what happened in NFC Championship game, then I think the Niners take this one. It might be a low-scoring battle too, or maybe just around the 20-point-ish mark. But I got to take the Niners here because the Eagles have shown, okay, you can't always start off that slow on offense and think that you're going to eventually come back and win the game. That's just not against the top teams. Especially when you get in the playoffs, you can't do that every week. So I think this will be a loss for them, but it will be a good lesson learned because, when they do get to the playoffs and they see this team again, possibly, then they'll be ready. But I'm picking the 49ers over the Eagles. Your Sunday night football matchup, I don't know what they were thinking. If they thought that, Jordan Love was going to be so spectacular. I get that the Packers are starting to play better. Jordan Love is starting to get into his groove. But maybe he'll throw a couple touchdowns against the Chiefs and they'll make it a game because the Chiefs defense can give up points. And then maybe Pat Mahomes, struggles just because, like I said, they don't look the same. That Eric Bieniemy's not there from week to week. They just don't. And yeah, maybe the Packers, try to make it a, competitive game for at least 2 quarters out of the game. But Chiefs are winning this. So Chiefs over the Packers on Sunday Night Football. And then you've got Bengals at Jaguars for Monday Night Football. I know what they were hoping for, Joe Burrow versus Trevor Lawrence. But, of course, Joe Burrow is done already for the season. So I don't see the Bengals with their backup doing anything against the Jaguars. 8-3 Jaguars, very impressive, and competing for one of the top spots in the AFC. Be crazy to see the Jaguars as the #1 seed in the AFC. That'd be crazy, but it's possible. So picking the Jaguars over the Bengals, and that will conclude our podcast here for Scout Team Sports. I am your host, DeValian. Believe until you stop breathing. That next episode, because I've got some things coming up next Saturday, will take that full day away from me. So that episode will come a day early or a night early. I'll do it Friday night. So it'll be Friday night, Scout Team Sports. That'll be live Friday night. And then I'll have it up. If you want to just wait and watch it on Saturday, you could do that. But until next week, believe until you stop breathing. Also, I'll have the midweek scramble up. I'll put that up still. So be on the lookout for the midweek scramble Wednesday night or Thursday morning, depending on what's going on with me. And then Scout Team Sports will be live Friday night because of Saturday morning. I will have some things I have to attend to a full day. So until next time, believe until you stop breathing. I appreciate all of my subscribers. Please continue to like, subscribe, and view. Even if you don't subscribe, I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next week. Have a great and blessed day.